Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. In Keir Starmer's first election year speech, he's left himself with very little room to not give us everything we need when he takes power. Because if it wasn't for the fact that he's already rejected the calls for him to give us a fair voting system, and he's already said that we're not going back into the EU single market, listening to him today, you'd think he was about to do both of those things.
I also promised this, a total overhaul of how we approach the economy and government.
Okay, let's start with the total overhaul of how we approach government.
The moment when power is taken out of Tory hands and given, not to me, but to you, that moment is getting closer by the second.
You see, when he says that he doesn't want power to go to him, he wants it to go to the people, the funny thing is, a couple of years ago, I drafted my ideal speech for Keir Starmer to make if he was to introduce proportional voting. And it went like this. I don't want to be in charge of the UK. The power belongs to the people, and no one party has the support of all the people. So it is democratically ridiculous that one man has absolute power over the UK. And today, Starmer went on to make more of those points.
Government in this country is too centralised and controlling. And because of that, too disconnected from the communities it needs to serve.
Which is why in my version I said, we will maintain the local connection between politicians and the people by devolving more power to the regions. This will reshape British politics. For starters, we will become more tolerant of each other's views because the winner-takes-all system will be gone. And today Starmer says that under his new system,
it asks you to moderate your political wishes out of respect for the different wishes of others. I mean, 45 million voters can't get everything they want. That's democracy.
I mean, seriously, what is happening? Now for this next bit, he's talking about how after 14 years of Tory government, he's going to offer us hope. But if you listen to what he says, all that hope is bound up in this idea that your vote should matter.
You're right to be anti-Westminster. Right to be angry about what politics has become. But hold on to the flickering hope in your heart that things can be better. We must crush their politics of divide and decline with a new Project Hope. The hope of democracy. The power of the vote, the potential for national renewal, the power of the vote. But this year is the chance, the only chance, to change our course. The future of Britain in your hands. The power of the vote in your control.
As I said before, he's leaving himself very little room to not do what we need him to do. Because if the power of the vote matters, then, well, in the UK, a party with a minority of the vote always gets majority control in Parliament. So the majority of votes that went the other way don't have any effect on UK policy. So if he's really serious about the power of the vote, he has to change that. So when he comes into power, if he makes any excuses for not changing the system, we can just play this next clip back at him.
Don't listen to the siren voices that say we can't change Britain.
Because he would be one of those voices. And then we get on to Brexit, because as we know, our economy is 4% smaller than it would have been if not for Brexit, which is why even Tory Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has said that our economy would grow faster if we were in the EU single market. And economic growth means more money means more ability to help people in poverty.
The first lever that we want to pull, the first place we will go, is growth in our economies. Without growth, we won't have the money to run our public services, to provide what is desperately needed.
So he's clear that growth is the priority, and he even goes on to admit that Brexit is a problem for that.
If you've been breaking your back to keep trading, steering your business through the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, the challenge of Brexit.
Now bear in mind, he's already told the Financial Times that renegotiating our trading relationship with the EU is at the centre of his plan for economic growth. So when he says the first lever he plans to pull is to grow the economy, I kind of feel like he's been copying my notes from 3 weeks ago. When Keir Starmer gets in, as we said, he's a political animal. So he's going to be thinking, all right, the country's been through 14 years of Tory madness with the economy. I'm trying to use a polite word there. And how do I improve people's quality of life? What's the biggest lever that I can pull? As we know, the government's experts say that Brexit is taking 4% of our economy, taking £1,000 from every household in the country. Rejoining the single market is the biggest lever he can pull to get people out of poverty. But like I said, Keir Starmer is a political animal. So before he became Labour leader, he was saying he would make major changes to the Brexit deal. After he became Labour leader, he said he wouldn't. And now he says he will. But if we're betting one way or the other, improving people's quality of life helps him stay in power, so he probably will. But he does temper it by saying,
and I've said a number of times, there will be good Labour things we won't be able to do in quite the way we want it when we want it.
But let me point out some of the things that he said that keep me cynical about him.
No longer enthralled to gesture politics. No longer a party of protest,
Gesture politics is Priti Patel's phrase when she was talking about taking the knee. And shitting on protesters after the battering that the right to protest has taken in recent years because of the Tories? Okay. And this next bit is obviously good, but you have to question his motivation.
I'm a big believer in 16-year-olds being able to express their views, have their vote.
Okay, so he's willing to come out and say that he's in favour of votes at 16, but he's not willing to come out and say that he's in favour of a fair voting system. Now, giving 16-year-olds the vote without changing the voting system itself, yes, it pushes things more towards the left, but you're still left with a two-party system, which means it gives Labour more power without fundamentally improving the nature of our democracy, which for somebody who just 10 minutes earlier said
Government in this country is too centralised and controlling.
Is pretty fucking hypocritical. He also correctly accuses the Tories of having
a mindset that seeks out any differences between the people of this country and, like weeds between the paving stones, will pull apart the cracks so ultimately they can divide and rule.
Now, while that's true, what he's doing there is accusing the Tories of deliberately making politics binary so that they can take advantage of a two-option system. But until Keir Starmer comes out in favour of a proportional voting system, that's exactly what he's doing too. So this next accusation would work just as well for him.
There would be even more entitled, even more self-serving, even more complacent that your vote can be taken for granted.
But here's the positive. This year, things go one of two ways. Either Keir Starmer doesn't win an absolute majority, in which case he has to go into power with the other opposition parties who will then force him to do the right thing, or he wins an absolute majority and can do anything he wants, in which case he'll have no excuse not to do everything we need. And we all need to be on the same page that anything he doesn't do never gets done, because obviously the Tories aren't going to do it. So there can be no more excuses for him. When Keir Starmer takes power, it's all hands on deck. I'm Femi, this has been F Politics, so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.